Thanks for tuning in. This is Giggles, Growth and Gynecology, a conversation with Aubrey and Suzanne. So, I'll tell you a little bit about me first, what it is that I do and what it is that I offer. So, I'm Suzanne. I'm a wellness coach and yoga teacher, and I offer a 6-month program for women, and it's called Wellness to Womb, and that is primarily for women who are suffering from gynecological pain, discomfort, or who have got through that shift now and are coming into the menopause. And we work together for 6 months where I'm your coach, talking you through that program. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through our conversation today. So I'll hand you over to Aubrey and she will tell you a little bit about her.
Thank you, love. So my name is Aubrey. I'm a clinical sexologist and sex and intimacy coach for women. And my work focuses on also supporting women, but in a different way. I empower them to safely explore and discover their sexual desires. And then typically, when you discover your desires, you then become confident in communicating them. But I also teach some nonviolent communication skills as well. And my program is called Awaken Your Desire, and it's a 4-month program that basically takes you through. Um, I'd say the most important piece is prioritizing the self, prioritizing time, energy, attention to the self. And it's a one-on-one program that I lead women through. And we do have like a couple of group coaching calls, but the primary results of the program is to build a relationship with your intuition so that you can find access to your desires. So,
Amazing.
yeah,
Sounds wonderful.
it's been really fun to, it was so fun to create, and it's been really fun to watch, women go through.
Yeah,
So,
sounds fab. I know
mhm.
when we first met Aubrey, we talked about, well, I talked about how people still find it difficult to talk openly about their body, especially in a sexual kind of way. So, can
Mhm.
you give us a little bit of an example of how you encourage a woman that you coach to feel comfortable when talking about her sexuality?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because honestly, the majority of the women that I've worked with, they want to speak about their sexuality. They're like
Right.
excited about it because some women have gone their entire lives without talking openly about their sexuality or their sexual experiences.
Yep.
And honestly, some of them, like, they can't wait to share, like many of us, they crave to be seen and to be heard, and they're really happy when they finally are.
Yeah.
And so the comfort piece comes with safety, and my empathetic nature and kind of my non-judgmental attitude usually give people a sense of safety, which then creates a comfort within them. I've kind of been told by many people that it's easy to talk to me. And in my last job, I
Yep.
was like the local therapist, and people would come into my office and like they'd be like, can I have
Have you
some
got five
advice?
minutes?
Yeah, yeah, or share their success, or honestly, sometimes they just needed a quiet place to like cry because work is stressful. And so I think having that energy or whatever it is something that people gravitate towards. And so
Yeah.
they kind of feel that innate sense of, oh, she's just going to sit here and listen and like not judge
And
me.
not judge. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the big
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, can you just share with our listeners how you became, like, how did you become a certified clinical sexologist, and what did your studies involve? What led you down that path?
Yeah. So before I go into the studies, I think I have a good story for you. Because I think I became fascinated with human sexuality like when I was a young child. And I mean, when we're young, we're we're super curious. I mean, we're just following what feels good, anyway, with our bodies. And so I remember when I was really young, I would wait till my parents went to bed and everybody in the house went to bed. And our living room was like really central. So it was like parents were over here, siblings were over there, and I was like standing in the living room with like my finger on like the remote, and I was watching the adult channel on 0 volume. And it was like, I was like, whoa, what is this? Like, it was so fascinating to me. And so that story I will never forget. I'll never forget that moment in my life when I was doing that. And it was secretive and it was exciting. And and then as I grew up, I became very sexual as a young woman. And I kind of, when I was reflecting on this, I kind of felt proud of that. Like I liked being really sexual and really,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
promiscuous, and it was like
it's like
taboo and
my
stuff.
my body. Yeah, like
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And I think I was always like a person who was like, if everyone's favorite color is blue, then mine's
Mine's
green. Like
green.
I was just, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
I wanted to be different. Um,
Love that.
and, yeah, yeah. And so I mentioned my empathic gifts. And so I'm an empath. I'm a highly sensitive person. And when I was young, I didn't really understand what that
Yeah.
was. And I felt things really intensely. So
Mhm.
I kind of always felt like I was like not really from this planet
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so fast forward when I became an adult, I I was more comfortable with my body. I was, more accepting of myself, and I just attracted people who wanted to share their sexual stories. Like it usually started with my girlfriends' husbands or their boyfriends telling me about their erectile issues or like asking me like, "Hey, how do I like pleasure her in this way?" And it was just kind of like, "Cool, that's what we're talking about on Tuesday at 5. All right." Like, cool, whatever. Oh, and then I started to become sexually involved with women, which was always something that I'd wanted to do or I was kind of curious about, but I wasn't sure if it was okay because I grew up in a really conservative small town. And so when I started to experiment with women, my first encounter actually, this was in my late 20s, my first encounter with a woman ended up turning, instead of it being like this super hot, sensual experience that I had in my head,
Yeah.
it turned out to be me teaching this young woman how to masturbate because she'd never done it before. Yeah. So I think I was sex coaching like way
Way
before I
before,
even knew it
before
was
you
a
were.
profession. Yeah. Um, so when I got my certification, so there's a certification process, and coaching is like interesting because it's not like, it's not federally mandated or governed.
Yeah.
And so there's not like, an FDA, or it's not like going and getting a therapy license. But my my certification program was an 18-month period. It was with a organization called Sex Coach University. I wonder I wonder what they teach. Super subtle.
Say it how
And
it is.
yeah. And it kind of took me through three different categories. It took me through sexology, which is just the study of human sexual behavior and sexuality. And then coaching, which by this time I had been a manager in my last job. So I was already kind of coaching people. So this
Familiar
was
with, yeah,
yeah,
like,
yeah. So this was a good add on to that. And then the third category was kind of like business acumen, because
yeah,
most people who went to that school were starting their own sex coaching business. So
yeah. Hmm.
yeah. And then, of course, since then, I graduated from that program in July of 2022. And since then, I've gone to several consent workshops or touch workshops and have done facilitation trainings because I like to facilitate intimate workshops, like
Hmm.
small workshops.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like
Oh,
been the
amazing.
the story. And it was yeah, it was fun to reflect on that. So,
Yeah. So what
hmm
would you say? You mentioned your program's called Awaken Your Desire. So what would you say has been the biggest outcomes for women from that program so far that you've seen?
Yeah, so awaken your desire. I think the biggest thing that I've seen, and honestly, the purpose of the program itself is developing a relationship with your own intuition,
Yep.
like fiercely honoring your heart
Hmm.
and your body and your desires.
Yep.
That's kind of the basis of it.
Hmm.
And what I've seen is when women give themselves, like I said earlier, attention, time, energy,
Yep.
and love that they give everybody else,
Jealous. Yep.
right? The results just speak for themselves. I
Profound,
mean,
isn't it? Yep. Hmm.
it's crazy. Yeah. One of my clients in it, she basically told me that she feels more confident. She feels more accepting of like herself, more understanding of herself and of others, which
Hmm.
I think was, I wasn't even thinking about that really. Like, yeah, when you start to like dig into your own desires and you don't think
You
they're
just,
like weird anymore, you know,
yeah, 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 yeah.
then
And
you can kind of see where another person might be coming from with their
yeah,
desires.
yeah.
Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. So, so yeah, they feel more sexual, they feel more authentic. She told me that she kind of feels tuned in to like her self advocacy. That was the word she used, self advocacy. And that it actually affects other areas of her life, like her non sexual relationships,
Hmm.
her work relationships, her hobbies. So, so yeah, I think that's the biggest outcome. Like, in another small part of it, and I think this this is great because it's the name of our thing, like giggles, growth, and gynecology, is like the program takes seriousness out of sex because it has
Yeah,
to,
because it doesn't need to be serious. It should be
it
fun. It
really
should be
doesn't.
funny. It should be a giggle.
Yeah.
It should,
Yeah, you should be giggling and
and
laughing
it
and
should
having a
be a
good time.
growth. It should change, and you know, even if you're with
Yes,
the same,
evolve.
even if you're with the same partner, it should, those experiences should change, and yeah,
Absolutely. And
yeah.
they do. They do,
Hmm.
whether or not you're like ready for it anyway.
Or
Like
not, yeah.
your desires are always like, well, this is what I want now, actually, not this.
Yeah,
Yesterday I wanted brown hair. Today I want blonde hair. I don't know. You know?
and I don't know
Um,
why.
yeah, and I don't know why. Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to know why. Oh man. So yeah, just bringing fun to it, is a big piece of it.
Yeah.
And one of the clients I have in it now, she was recently divorced when we started working together. And so she was kind of like in her last relationship, her desires were neglected, right? She wasn't
Yeah.
getting any of her sexual needs met.
Hmm.
And so we actually just had a session yesterday, and she was like, I feel like content. I was like, that's what getting your sexual needs met feels like. Cause she's like
Yeah.
on this whole journey now of like just
What
like making
what
her
do I
desires
want?
come.
What do I
Yeah.
need? Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And she was kind of in a cool position where she already knew what she wanted. Like she had a good idea. And now it was just like creating a safe space and a safe way for her to make those desires a
Yeah.
reality for herself. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what we're doing. And it's just been so cool. So
Fab.
yeah. Yeah.
Love
I
it.
love it. I love the program. I'm a little biased, but
So I noticed on your website you said that you've traveled a lot. So where would you
mm,
say was your favorite place and why?
um one of my favorite places, won't call it my favorite, but one of my favorite places was I went to Croatia for a
Hmm.
week and we did this thing. Have you ever heard of Yacht Week
No.
before? It's like this, you rent a yacht for a
A
week
week.
and a
Yacht week.
skipper.
Yacht week.
That week.
Losing the title.
Self-explanatory. And you rent it and you get a skipper with it as well. And you can like all your friends can do it together, or you can
All
have like,
right.
or you can like couple with other people in the world.
Uh-huh.
And so like
Uh-huh.
when me and my ex and my friends did this, we only had half of our group. So then we just found these like random
Random
Australians.
bods.
Yeah, these random rowdy Australians, and we had a blast together for a week, and we were on a boat for a week together. And we were traveling around the Croatian islands, and
Oh.
it was beautiful. And it's kind of funny because now that I'm thinking about it, there's actually a lot of painful memories in this or painful experiences in this memory. But one of the best ones was we were hiking on Havar. We were on the island Havar for 2 days. We were hiking, and there was this path that got to these like jagged rocks, and people would just like give up. They're like, I don't want to go on these rocks. Like, no thanks. So we would just kept going, and we were climbing all of these rocks, and then we finally got to this like cove, and it was isolated, and it was like shaded by like one little tree. It was like
Oh.
something out of a fairy
Like,
tale. It was
yeah,
beautiful.
like something from a different planet. Yeah.
Yes, it was so cool. And the reason why this is one of my favorite memories is because we were chilling on the beach, and uh, all of a sudden, one of my friends goes, "There's an octopus in the water." And I'm like, "Dude, are you on drugs? You can't see anything." And so we put our goggles on, and we're like the water's like up to our shins. So it's not like we can swim really. So we're like literally standing like this with our keisters in the air. We looked probably really, really silly. And sure enough, there was this beautiful octopus right in the
Oh.
shallows. And octopuses are really, they're super, they have these unique personalities from other sea creatures, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
sometimes they're like really curious and sometimes they're not. And this one was super curious. So had
Oh.
we got this stick. We weren't like poking it, but we got a stick and we were just like kind of seeing if he would wrap his tentacles
Tentacles
around it.
round it. Uh-huh.
And he did. And he was so curious and he
Oh.
was changing all these colors. And I've never seen an octopus in real life. And that was, yeah, something I'll never forget. We named him William Shakespeare.
William
So,
Shakespeare. I love it.
yeah,
When
yeah, yeah.
I went to Cape Verde, was it Cape Verde? Yeah, Cape Verde. And and I've never ever snorkeled before.
Hmm.
And I'm really scared of the ocean. And Ian was like, "Oh, it'll be fine, it'll be fine." So I put the snorkel on, went underneath, and this massive wave came out of nowhere and just like took me up and brought me all the way back down again. And I came face to face with this massive turtle.
Oh,
And we both just looked at each other. And then he turned that way and I turned that way. And it was almost like he was saying, "Come on, I've got your back. Come on, swim this way." And I was just swimming
oh,
after him. And I
oh,
was like, "Oh my God, that was amazing."
oh
It's my
my
first
gosh, that is
ever
so
experience. It
cool.
was literally within like 5 seconds of getting into the water that happened.
That's like,
And then he just
wow.
disappeared off into the in the distance. And I was like, "Oh, I want to follow him."
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That's a really special experience. That's really cool. And also watching sea creatures disappear into the water below you
Oh, it's like,
freaks me out.
yeah, me too.
Freaks
Because
me out a lot.
I think we've like looked at the universe for so long, haven't we? Like, we look up, we're always
Hmm.
looking up at the moon and the stars and
Hmm.
going, oh, like the galaxies. But once you do go into the ocean, you just think, God, it just goes on and on and
Hmm.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite intimidating really to think how big it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Oh man.
Oh, that was a lovely
So,
story. Thanks for sharing that.
yes, you're so welcome. It's one of my favorite stories to tell, William Shakespeare.
William Shakespeare.
Yeah, yeah. I don't exactly know why we named him that, but it's a good name. It's a good name for an octopus, I think. So,
Yeah.
so let's go back to you now, and let's change it up for you. So, your program, Wellness to Womb, I would love to hear kind of your journey about that. Like what inspired you to focus on women's hormonal wellness and
Yeah.
gynecological health?
hmm so it goes way, way back really to when I was probably about 10. Um, I was always taken to hospital as a child, constantly in pain. No one knew what was wrong with me. By the time I was about 12, I was basically told that once I became a woman and had a child, the pain would go away. They named it growing pains.
Oh,
So in my head at the age of 12, I developed this fixation that if I have a baby, I'll not be in pain. And I
mm,
didn't start my periods until I was 15, so I was quite late. But obviously, later on in life, I discovered there is such a thing as fetal endometriosis, which is
mm,
passed from the mother to the child. Um, and so I lived a life of monthly pain my whole life. And
oh
it was
wow.
it's a little bit like the same kind of, way back when, I don't know what girls are like now talking about it, but when I was at school, we never talked about our periods. And I just thought everybody else's period was the same. I thought everyone was
Right.
passing massive clots, having really heavy bleeding.
Mm,
So I just thought I was a wimp.
mm,
And, they were in that pain. They were, running marathons. They were going out on a night out in my
mm-hmm,
early 20s. I was just a wreck, like just
mm.
always tired. Probably 3 weeks out of the four, I would be either bleeding or in pain. So I would have like a
Oh
week
my
a month,
gosh.
just literally 1 week every month where I felt okay. Um, and then I went through other trauma as well. When I was young, I had to have my elbow replaced, which was really, really painful. And I think I just grew up with pain
Yeah.
all my life, and I just got on with it. And it wasn't
Just push
until
through it.
pushed through it, yeah.
Mhm.
And then what happened was I wasn't diagnosed until with endometriosis until I was 32, which obviously was a long time to go through all that pain. But once I had a diagnosis, I knew what I was dealing with then, kind
Mhm.
of, even though, in the 90s, they didn't really know much about endometriosis. And it was just kind of off you pop, get on with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's like
and
that for a lot of women's
yeah,
issues.
yeah. And I knew I had been told it was very bad around the bowel, which obviously your bowel is so near to your
Hmm.
womb and the pressure that that would cause. So I went to see a bowel specialist and she did chronic irrigation. I didn't know about bowel health, didn't have a clue about if you keep a healthy bowel, you have a healthier womb and also a healthier brain. The bowel is so connected to the brain
Mm.
in
Hmm.
so many different ways. When we say that gut feeling, when you have a
Right.
gut feeling, yeah, it's the gut speaking and it's telling the brain to think that. So I went down that route and then she suggested reflexology. So I started to go for that. And then whilst I was having reflexology, she suggested Reiki. And ultimately, years gone by, I would go for regular treatments. And because I kind of saw this beneficial, saw what this could do, so it was like lowering that anxiety and kind of, and like what you were saying earlier about embracing your body,
Mm.
owning that pain, owning that, and dealing with that pain. And endometriosis is a disability, and it's only just been recognized as such in the UK. But it's
Hmm.
actually going, right, I have this pain. I have to be selfish to everybody else and live my life like this.
Hmm.
If that doesn't suit you, then that's not my problem. So that would mean ultimately not going on nights out,
Right.
being accused of being boring or,
Right.
not drinking alcohol, maybe having a
Being
couple.
judged a ton too.
Yeah,
Being
yeah,
judged.
yeah. And just taking that accountability. Um, by the time I was 37, I started to do yoga. And then obviously I progressed through my yoga journey and then became a yoga teacher. So everything I've done, so I became a reflexologist, became a Reiki master, became a yoga meditation teacher.
That's awesome.
And when I first started yoga, I didn't really know why I enjoyed it. I would go, my first yoga class I absolutely hated, but I went back, absolutely hated it. I was just like, oh my God, it's all
Why did you
so.
go back?
I don't know. There was something that just was like, do you know what? I think I had back pain, and I think I was just like, you know what? My back feels a bit better.
Mm.
I couldn't touch my toes. I couldn't
Hmm.
do all the fancy moves everyone else was doing. So I just used to stay at the back. Um, and then I progressed to a different yoga teacher. And I do advocate this to a lot of people. I might be your yoga teacher now, but in 3 years' time, I might not be because
Mm.
everyone needs to progress. Just like we were saying before about your sex life, it should
Yeah,
change. That should evolve and change and transform.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and so my new yoga teacher taught everything about breath work, and that was an eye opener to me.
Mm.
Finding that connection between it wasn't just right, get into down dog, it was all right, get into down dog. And then she would talk you through specific breathing. She would
Mm.
count. She would tell you what to do with your belly. She would tell you what to do with your head. She would tell you what to do with your fingers. And it was, you were connecting with everything in that.
Every part of your
Yeah, every
body.
part of your body. And you were focusing, and you would come away after like an hour and a half, and you'd think, oh my God, I've forgotten about everything like that I was going to do tomorrow, that I've done today. You were just in that moment at that
Mm.
time.
Hmm.
And then recently, my gynecological problems kind of got worse, got manifested. So I had to have surgery, and I had what's called an oophorectomy,
Mm.
which is removal of the ovaries and the tubes, the fallopian tubes. And sadly, after that, I contracted sepsis, and then
Oh.
a terrible thing happened. It manifested into what's known as necrotizing fasciitis, which
Hmm.
is flesh-eating disease, which, as you can imagine, it's doing what it says.
Yeah.
Um, so it was
It's
eating
so
away,
scary.
yeah, at the stomach area. So I needed emergency surgery, and it had always been before COVID, it had always been my dream to do like retreats and regular yoga. And I was doing the yoga classes weekly, and I was planning my first retreat. And then something just, I don't know what it was, manifested after all of this. And it was like, do you know what? What if I could give someone the knowledge that I've got if they need to recover from something similar?
Mm.
Because I think you get through life sometimes and you don't realize what knowledge you've built up and what you know. And it's, transforming other people's lives into a program that can really, really change your life for the better,
Hmm.
obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but like all the pain that you went through kind of also gives it some purpose because
Well,
sometimes that can
yeah,
feel lost, you
yeah,
know?
because when someone goes, "Oh, I know how you feel," I actually genuinely do know how you feel. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that lostness as well. It's that like it's knowing, where do I start?
Hmm.
I want to feel better in this body, but where do I start? And it's about, yes, we need doctors, yes, we need surgery, but you might get to that moment in time where I did, where somebody said, right, you've got this, there's nothing we can do. And then you're like, right, well, I can't live my life like this. I can't be in this much pain every
Yeah.
month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
about embracing that and living a life of wellness.
Hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Hmm.
You're such a strong woman to
Oh,
go through all of that. Yeah.
thanks. Thank
So,
you.
so your program, you started talking about that a little bit, wellness to womb. When I was looking through it, it kind of goes into like three areas,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like developing resilience,
yeah,
healing trauma and kind of like blocked emotions, and then cultivating kind of deeper tools to help you live the life that you want.
yeah,
Um, Hopefully with less pain too.
yeah.
um, so I'm kind of curious about these three areas. Could you kind of like walk us through what they mean, or do they happen like
Yeah,
chronologically or
yeah, yeah,
all
sure. Yeah.
together? Yeah,
So not necessarily chronologically, because I think it depends on the individual and what the current obstacles are, and
right.
also what their desired outcome is. Because obviously this is a program that's one-to-one and it's very unique and it's niche for that person. Yes, there are some core elements, but fundamentally, like what you were saying earlier, it's about connecting with that person, allowing that person to open up and explain the struggles, explain
Yeah.
something that they probably may never have ever spoken about before. We might go to
Hmm.
the doctor and all they're asking is clinical questions. They're not asking
Yeah.
emotional questions.
Yeah. Or how it's affecting other parts of your life.
Yeah, yeah, like
Yeah.
work. And I mean, I can't remember how many times I've had to ring in sick
Yeah.
because of the pain, because it was so bad I couldn't even get out of bed. And if I just knew three, four things of what I know now, that could have actually have helped me to get out of bed. It's not necessarily about, get up, get on with it. It's knowing how to live your life in the
Hmm.
best way possible. You might be late for work, but you probably would have got to work if you
Yeah.
had these tools. So the developing resilience bit, that's a little bit about, it's understanding who you are and how you react to situations in your life as well. So it's questioning the why. Why do I do this every day? Why do I
Mm.
do that?
Like
Um,
learning about your own behaviors.
yeah, I mean, like I'll give you an example. Right up until this happened to me, my house was immaculate, spotless. I would make the bed every day. The shower was clean. There was never any muddles. It
Mhm.
was always immaculate. And that was because that was the way I was brought up. That is the way my mother is. That's the way she still is. If you go to a home, it's like a show home. Everything has a place. Everything's like it's immaculate. And
Yeah.
and I didn't even realize this until I was going through this. And even when I was in pain, I was still trying to do this, to keep this going, to keep that. And it started to make me angry. It started to make me grumpy. And then I started
Mm.
to question, well, why does the bed need making? There's nobody
Yeah.
else. I live on my own. There's nobody else here. It's just
Yeah.
me. We were still in COVID lockdown when I was recovering as well. So there was no visitors.
Yeah.
And it's like, why do I do that? And then that started to manifest into this pattern in this behavior. And I did a lot of self-reflection on, why do I do things the way I do it? And it was like,
Mm.
and it always came back. because my mother told me to, because my
Yeah.
father told me to, because
Yeah.
that's how we did it. And so this part of this journey is just finding your voice and connecting with your soul essence. It's like
Hmm.
discovering who you really are, not who you think you should be. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think that's so important for changing that path of. I was talking to someone on Facebook this week, and she is of the opinion that nothing else will work other than medical intervention. So she wants a pill, she wants medicine, she wants
Mm.
surgery, and that's it. She's not open to any other suggestion, and
Yeah.
that's fine. However, she's in her 20s, and I wish her luck because I do hope that that works for her. I probably deep down inside know that it isn't going to
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she will constantly get that resistance all the way.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then that comes on to like the healing, the trauma, and the blocked emotions. Is like we all face trauma in our lives, some more than others. You know, whether a
Yeah.
friendship's ending, a relationship, losing a job, ill health, grief, whatever it might be. And trauma is like it's all different for everybody, isn't it? And it's
Yeah.
about
And it
how we,
shows up different in our
yeah,
bodies and
and
yeah.
it's about how we connect with that trauma, and it's about breaking it down into tiny little pieces and like kind of owning it and taking and making peace with it as well,
Hmm.
and learning to then move on from it. When I was in my 20s, I had cancer and I felt very lonely. And this was in the 90s. And I felt very locked in. And I'm going to use that
Mm.
word locked in for a reason.
Okay.
Um, and in 1997, what people need to realize is there was no internet, there was no mobile phones. So I was in hospital and I used to write letters to people from the hospital bed and post them and expect people to write back. And that
Mm.
was, and through the day, I would write, I would journal like how I was feeling about the person in the bed next to me. And then I would give it to my partner to read, like, this is what's happened today. And and it took me a
That's
good
wonderful.
18 months during that time to like recover physically. So like I say, that was in my 20s and I recovered and we moved on. And then COVID hit in 2020,
Hmm.
and all that trauma from 1997 came back.
Mm.
And it was really weird because I felt locked in.
Yeah.
I was locked in. I couldn't, we couldn't go out, and it was all that
It's like a
trauma
trap.
building up
Yeah.
again. Yeah. And it's just about looking at anything that doesn't serve you well, that, once you start on this holistic wellness path, things will come up that you thought you'd dealt with, maybe
Right.
a friendship that's been lost down the line and you never spoke to her and she never spoke to you, and now you're
Hmm.
really angry about it. You're still
Oh
angry and
yeah.
you don't know
Oh
why
yeah.
you're angry and you can't let go. So it's just unpicking all of those traumas and healing holistically, really, and looking at that mental health. And I think that's a really important part of this process. It's not just about healing that pain, it's digging much deeper to know
Mm.
how can you transform that pain into a positive, and how can you move through that pain, because at the end of the day, pain is there because of the receptors in the brain. If you switch that
Hmm.
receptor off, we all know if we take a drug for a headache, the headache's going to go away because the drug has sent a signal through the
Hmm.
bloodstream to the brain to switch off that pain receptor.
Right.
But what if there was a wellness way to do that? What if there was a
Yeah.
way that you could live your life and control it every single day?
Mm, mm,
So yeah, so that's
yeah.
about that.
Sorry, I was just taking in like what you just said there. I was like, ooh, let that wash over me for a minute. Ooh. Because there is beautiful gems in our pain. There
Yeah.
is. There's a purpose to it. I believe there's a
Mhm.
purpose to
And
our
it
pain.
is, it is hard living with a life of pain, but it's how you choose to own that pain and how
Yeah.
you choose to, and if your pain threshold is already quite high, when anything else then happens, like with me with the sepsis, you're just topping it up. You're topping up the cup every time. So then you need to do more and more
Yeah.
and more.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you just need to look at that and shift it around. So
Mm.
that's
Yeah.
that part of the program. And then the tools aspect of it, sort of cultivating
Mm.
the deeper tools, that's like, so it's finding what works. And obviously, my program covers many different modalities. As I've already said, I'm a reflexologist, Reiki master. Yes, when we're dealing with online work, I can't necessarily do a reflexology treatment on
Mm.
somebody. However, I can teach someone to do reflexology on themselves,
Mm.
and it is still
Which is even
powerful.
more
Yeah,
empowering, really.
yeah. If you've got a headache, I can tell you where to press, or get your partner to press for you. Just go,
Mhm.
like, press this. Um, so
Awesome.
it's about having that toolkit. You know, if I mention to if as soon as I say yoga to anybody, you should try yoga. It's like, oh, I can't touch my toes. I'm not bendy enough and all that.
Yeah.
It's
They
like,
go right
oh,
to like the stretching piece of
yeah.
it.
And I'm like, ah. And so my desire is to actually like get people to open their eyes and look at yoga in a completely different way. Yoga isn't about like touching your toes. Yoga means union, and it's union with nothing else but you. It's about breathing, it's about being
Mm.
present. It's
Mhm.
about cultivating a yoga practice that works for you. I don't think people realize as well how many different styles of yoga there are. So
Yeah.
you're not going to rock up on a yoga mat with me and I'm going to tell you to get on your head because I can't do that. So I'm not going
Yeah.
to tell you to. It's about it's about connecting with your breath, and like what that yoga teacher taught me many moons ago, it's about getting into a posture and me talking to you and asking you, inviting you to let go. So
Mm.
let the head relax, let the feet
Mm.
relax, and just breathe, just melt into the posture. And it's amazing where people get once you start to say that to people, once you just start to say, like, tap into your inner self.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
a way to cultivate presence.
Hmm.
Um, I'm getting my yoga certification next year, actually. I'm super
Yay.
excited about it.
Excited.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
And I think another thing that yoga, I mean, this is how it's kind of been transformative in my life, is that the trauma pieces and the blocked emotions that you were talking about earlier, some of these areas in our body where those things get stuck or that
Yeah.
energy becomes
Hmm.
stuck,
Hmm.
like our hips or maybe in our shoulders. When I'm doing yoga sometimes, I feel those releases. And
Yep.
usually when I'm releasing my blocked emotions, it comes in the form of crying.
Yep. Which
When I'm
is,
happy, when I'm sad, when I'm mad, it doesn't matter.
yeah. Uh-huh. And then that is totally, it's like 100%. We
Mhm.
have a muscle in the round the back of the hips called the psoas muscle. It's
Mm.
actually spelled PSOAS. Um, and that's the biggest muscle in the body. And that comes right around the hip area. And when you're stressed, that contracts. And what it does is it sends a signal up to the shoulders and it makes you go,
Oh,
and that's
really?
why you get painful shoulders. It's got
Wow.
nothing, 9 times out of 10, your shoulders are stressed because your hips are.
Your hips.
And
Yeah.
whenever anyone says, "Oh, I've got shoulder pain," and I always give them a hip opening posture, and they're like, "Well, that's not my shoulder."
Yes. I've
Start at
always
the
said that
root.
my hips have a mind of their own, and so
Yeah,
now I get
now you
it.
know why. Yeah, your
Yeah.
hips are, and when we look in my program, we do a lot of chakra work. So the whole part of the program is like really delving into the chakras. And you've got you've got your root chakra, your sacrum, and then your solar plexus. And so all
Mhm.
of those three chakras there are so related to female organs and, your creativity,
Sensuality,
sexuality.
sexuality.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and obviously reproduction. So
Hmm.
all of that needs nurturing. It needs, I remember an analogy years ago from one of my yoga teachers, and she said, if you got a sponge and you filled it with soap and then you left it in the sun to dry and it was all really hard, would you really want to wash with that sponge? You would need to add water to it to make it all nice and soft and supple
Mm-hmm.
and soapy, and then it would feel luxurious and relaxing. And that's the
Hmm.
way we need to nurture those hips, because
Mm.
that's where all that stickiness and that tension just forms all around
Yeah,
the hip joints and the bones and the muscles. And 9 times out of 10, anyone who does have endometriosis, that's where it's going to be. It's going
that's
to
where
be,
it's going to be.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's where it's going to start
absolutely.
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's other modalities as well. There's like I'm doing a course at the minute in Chinese medicine, and it's actually
Mm.
specifically for women, which is going to be
Oh,
great. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a whole separate training program on how to manage your monthly cycle based on the Chinese medicine theory.
cool.
It's
That's
really
awesome.
interesting. It's like being like a ping moment for me. Amazing.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to check that out because
Yeah.
so I have an IUD and I've had that for it'll be 8 years in next year. And
Okay.
so in February. And so I have been feeling uh I've kind of missed my because I don't have a period anymore, but
Right.
I have
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
IUD that I didn't have one anymore. So I haven't had a period in like 6 years.
Yeah.
And it's been great because I'm like, haha, I have no cramps or anything like that.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me that kind of misses that piece of my of my body, of my development. And so I'm considering, I haven't quite decided yet, but I'm considering
Ooh.
using other forms of birth control that
Yeah.
where I can have my period back.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna have to check out your
Well,
training
uh,
about that if I
so
decide that.
I'm going to be linking it as well with like this whole moon theory of
Yeah.
like, regulating with the moon. And yeah, it's like it's really interesting to just,
Yeah. One
yeah.
of my old relationship coaches had she would call it her moon time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And even if you don't have a womb anymore, if you've had a total
Right.
hysterectomy, you can still, and you should still live your life as you are having a cycle,
Mm,
because we are still women, still have those needs and desires. And it's a great way to live your life by the moon and have those weeks and that rest week and that
yeah.
nurturing week and then that like
Yeah.
let's get shit done week.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
But there's
So,
other things as well
oh,
that
go ahead.
I just wanted to just quickly say, like I would,
Oh, yeah.
be putting in the program is like crystal therapy, meditation,
Mm,
acupuncture as well. Um,
Ooh, I love acupuncture. I love
yeah,
getting that. Yeah.
yeah, all of these modalities are just, but it's knowing what you need, when you need it, and how best to implement. I'm not going to say
Yeah.
to everybody like, right, go out, do yoga, buy crystals, eat salad, meditate, because we just don't have time.
Yeah.
No one has
Yeah.
time.
Well, and I
This
think
is,
that's the thing in both of our programs. It's meeting women where they're at in
yes,
their journey so that they can, because a lot of people they don't know where to start.
yeah.
Like I have no idea where to start. So it's helping them figure out that starting point.
I mean, everything I know is like it's from 30 years. So I'm not gonna like chuck it at you and go, right, off you pop. Unless
Yeah.
you've got like 2 years to do nothing but like manifest, which would be lovely if you just had
Oh, it'd be so great. So great. Oh, well, thank you for walking through that.
No, that's
It's so
good.
nice to know that a person like you exists and that you're helping
Oh,
women in this
thanks.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what would you say are the biggest outcomes that you've seen from the women that go through the Wellness to Womb program?
I think it's kind of, well, it's kind of very similar to what you were saying about your program. It's that connection with the self.
Hmm.
It's like
Yeah.
it's bringing it all back to understanding who you are as a woman, as an adult. We go from being a child to a teenager to an adult, and there's no real manual, is there, on how we do it? And we take it,
Absolutely not.
and like I've said previous, we take advice from parents or those who have raised us, and we do it like they said. Um, but we kind of sometimes that mold needs to be broken.
Hmm.
My mum didn't have the pain that I had. My sister didn't have the pain that I had. And so I feel empowered to be able to go, I need to do something with the knowledge that I have.
Hmm.
I had that gift to be able to go out and learn, and I had
Hmm.
the money to invest in my own wellness. And I think that's part of what we need to kind of allow other people to embrace as well.
Right.
Um,
Right. Well,
and
when
it's
you give yourself that, and when you invest in yourself, and when you give yourself that attention and prioritize your own needs, and then other people are like, "Oh, she's doing this. I didn't know you could do that. Maybe I'll do it too."
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
permission for other people as
Uh-huh.
well.
And it's about connecting with your core desires and who do you really want to be? What do you want to do? Do you want to
Hmm.
be in this pain? Do you want to live like this? Or do you want to learn other things about how you can live the best life for you, not for anybody else, just for you? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's great how our programs are so similar, but are so
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
It's
the
awesome.
core is different, but the essence is
Yes,
all
the essence
sparkly and
is
the
about the
same.
same.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, okay, well, one last fun question for you.
Mhm.
So I want to know if you or your program had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh, well, I actually have a song that I want playing at my funeral, and
Oh,
it
perfect.
it might give you a little bit of a giggle when I tell you
I
why.
hope it does.
So it's Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Love it already.
Best thing that ever happened to me. So I don't know if you're familiar with the song. You'll have to like maybe pause the video and go and play it. We'll put a
Yeah.
link under the video, won't we?
Ooh,
Um,
that's a good idea.
yeah, yeah. So I just love how she sings about her love story. So through the ups and the
Oh.
downs and through pain and glory and it's all about like and it's all about you're the best thing that ever happened to me. However, when I hear this song and I sing this song in the car or in the shower, me, when she's saying, you're the best, and I'm singing it, you're the best thing that ever happened to me, the you're is me. I'm
Is
thinking,
yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm the best person that's ever happened to me. I've got me through this.
Yeah.
No one
Yes. Oh,
else.
that's awesome.
I've been determined. I've never quitted. I've never given up. I've been the one that's went, okay, I need to eat celery for a week. I will do it.
Oh, that's awesome. I found the song, by the way, and I really
Have
want to
you?
play it. Yes, I'm gonna play it right now for us because it's great. Oh man. Play it on this computer. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna play this for us because I'm curious about it. It's probably a song that I've actually heard before, so we'll see. Can you hear it?
Yeah,
Yes. Maybe we should go out with like a dance party, you know?
I guess you could say.
Oh my gosh, I would love to belt this song.
Should have.
Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for putting this together. And
Oh, it's
it's just
been
been so great
amazing.
to chat with you, you know? Uh,
We'll have to do more calls. It's been fun.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for yours.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining us on this enlightening episode of Whispers of the Womb. Audrey, thank you for sharing your expertise and passion with us today. Your work is empowering women to embrace their desires and explore their sexuality is truly inspiring. As we conclude this episode, I want to remind our listeners that self-discovery and the pursuit of health and wellness are ongoing journeys. Aubrey's message of embracing your uniqueness and prioritizing your desires is a powerful one, and I encourage each of you to take a moment to reflect on how you can better connect with your own intuition and desires. Remember, the path to self-discovery is not always easy, but it is deeply rewarding. So keep listening, keep learning, and keep exploring the beautiful essence of health and wellness with yourselves. Thank you for being a part of Whispers of the Womb. Until next time, my name is Suzanne Lawson, wishing you all a journey filled with self-discovery, love, and fulfillment.